Hey, I'm Victoria Wilson, and I make it easy for you to be a great doula. And I love talking about one of my favorite tools to make your doula practice easier, Honeybook. I am now a Honeybook educator. I've used it for the past 4 years in my doula practice, and I absolutely love it. I'm going to show you a replay of a free class I did all about how to use Honeybook for your business. But here's the trick. I'm just going to show you the class portion. If you want to see the last half of class where I show you how to use Honeybook, for your doula business, you're going to have to drop your email in the link below, and then I'll put that in your inbox. So feel free to watch this replay, totally free right here on YouTube, How to Honeybook for Doulas. And then if you want the demonstration portion, just drop your email and I'll send it your way.
Welcome. This is Honeybook for doulas. And sometimes I want to say and for the rest of us, but obviously we're just going to be talking about doulas and kind of how you can use Honeybook for your doula business. And if we haven't already met, my name is Victoria Wilson. I am a certified birth doula and based in Central Kentucky. Horses, bourbon, that's us. I'm kind of around that, not quite in the heart of it, but in that area. And I have recently become an Honeybook educator because I'm such a raving fan, to be honest with you. They said, "Hey, do you want to tell other people about how Honeybook can work for your business?" And I said, "Sure, that sounds great," because I literally use it all the time. I'll talk more about my history with Honeybook as we go. But I wanted to point out Honeybook was kind enough to kind of give us some slides we can use so they really can showcase their software the best. But I wanted to put my own personal touch on this too. So sometimes you're going to see my branding, sometimes you're going to see theirs. Anytime you see slides from me, that is me showing you literally some screenshots of how I use Honeybook in my business. So of course, blues, teals, that's me. If it's this kind of yellow, black, that's Honeybook. And at the very end, I'm going to teach through the slides. They're fairly short, quick, but really our meat is going to be after I give you some orientation. We're going to really dive into Honeybook ourselves and just see all that it can do. I would really want to craft a demo around what you want to see. So again, I'm going to introduce what it does, and then we'll live do it. Of course, you can unmute your mic or use comments at that time. Okay, so there are a lot of reasons why you would want to lead your clients through their own journey. A couple of those benefits, you can, as a doula, really easily determine when you're available. Doula, any birth worker, we're often working around due dates, whether you're doing postpartum work or birth work. Honeybook, I'll show you, gives you such a convenient way to just line up your birth dates, your due dates, and it will tell you who's booked, who's you're still waiting on. I love it for that. You can keep your client records really organized and on hand. Honeybook has an app, and you better believe that sometimes at 3 in the morning, I might need to remind myself where people live. So I'm pulling up my Honeybook app. I have them fill a questionnaire. My clients fill out a questionnaire. I can just pull that up, see their address. If I need that reminder, I can see notes, especially if you're working with multiple clients. You might need to remember who has some special preferences. Honeybook, it's all assigned there to them. I love that I can just access that. And again, they have an app, which I definitely use. You can also share client details really easily with backups or agency members. There is a way to export your client notes as a PDF. You can also add team members, and I'll talk some about my experience doing that. So if you're growing your team, or maybe you have a doula partner you work with, they all can have the same access. And then another thing I really use Honeybook for every single day is automating so many messages and communications, right? If we're working or you're at a birth, you can't really respond in a timely fashion, but Honeybook can do that for you. So really quickly to orient you to when I started using Honeybook, I've been a doula since 2015. That's when I got trained, began certification, attended my first birth as a support person. There's me at the top, little baby doula. And then interestingly for me, during the pandemic, as you see there, I've got my mask on. That's really when my business kind of blew up. Thanks to some local birth advocacy efforts in my community. There was one hospital, just one, that said, you know what, this pandemic is really serious, but doulas are part of the care team. You may continue to come in person. We want you to be here for your clients. That super increased my demand. I had been working a full-time job in the birth field, and I was turning away inquiries all the time. But really, my husband and I were like, let's just try to make this thing work. Let's go in. We thought we were done with kids. I'll get that in a second. And I went full-time as a doula. So I'll show you what that looked like for me client load wise, but in 2020 really increased. And then even now in that end of 2024, I've been using Honeybook through so many pivots. I mentioned I had a baby, kind of a surprise baby sneak in 2022. So I'm not working as much in person now. I ran an agency for like a hot minute. It wasn't for me, but I used Honeybook to help organize that. That was one of the least stressful parts for me of running an agency was I knew I had all my details in Honeybook. And then now I use Honeybook as an educator. So the bottom line with giving you that history is that we change as people, as doulas, and hopefully our system should change with us. And so to kind of give you an idea, these are my real kind of client numbers back from when I started. You kind of see how it's this bell curve situation right about there in 2020 is when I really started feeling the need for a better client management process. Up until then, I had a really convoluted Google Doc system. I was sending people like literally just a Google Doc and I was like, fill this out. And then sometimes I would fill it out for them and I would save their birth plan in folders with all the client names, but I wasn't sure, like, is that okay? Should I have it password protected? How can I find everything? It was quite chaotic. And then I threw in when I had babies too in 2018 and in 2022 because really it was more of like 2023. She was born at the end of 2022. So that's important too, because you kind of see why my business kind of was rising and falling. But Honeybook just made that seamless. I could increase or decrease clients and not lose any notes. Also, I had several repeat clients in that time, and it's great. Honeybook was great because I still had them as a project. I could pull them up again. So we're going to dive into, again, we're going to let Honeybook kind of help us understand for a second, what is a client flow? Why is this important? And as we go along, if you guys have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Like I said, at the very end, we're going to do questions and Q&A demos and all that sort of stuff. So why is this important? Basically, it is really important for you to know from inquiry through when they have their baby and you're done working with them. It's really good for you to know exactly what every single client is doing in your business. So there's kind of 4 pillars of a client flow. That inquiry, we might call it, or mutual qualification is what Honeybook is calling it. You're reaching out, interviewing, are we a good fit? Down to booking, is this person, are we going to hire, work together? They need to be able to sign a contract, agree to services, make a payment. Then project management, how, for in my case, I'm a birth doula. So I meet with people a couple times. I'll show you how I customize Honeybook for me to know what meetings have I done with what clients. If you're a postpartum doula or maybe like a childbirth educator or prenatal instructor, there could be different milestones in when you work with a client. Honeybook can let you organize all of that. And then of course, completion. Hopefully if people have babies again, they're going to be working with you again. Like I said, Honeybook even can capture that information and then help you when the client comes back around again. I really love that. And so, of course, I have used Honeybook to improve my client flow. I can't recommend it enough, actually. And it starts with the contact form. So the contact form is where that person initially is going to give you a lot of information. And you can kind of even determine from that form, are you going to be a good fit or not? Here's an example of my form. If you go to my website right now, you'll see this form pop up lots of times on the site. I got a URL code or an HTML code. You can embed it on your site. It's on my homepage, it's on my contact page, like you see here. And you'll even notice that I can ask people, hey, when are you due? Just an estimate, and that can automatically tell me, am I free or not? I have changed that I've added this question in here. Where are you currently planning on giving birth? Because there's some places I don't go to anymore. And so I just want to know, have an orientation from the get-go of could I work with you or not? And this form you kind of see actually is something you can design in Honeybook. And they give you a code to embed it on your site. It's very user-friendly. You can also use a direct link like you see here. It's kind of nice that, like, let's say you're on Instagram, so you're messaging with someone or Facebook or whatever, you can just send them that direct link even to the form, and Honeybook is hosting that for you. But what I love is that Honeybook is automatically putting all of that information into your project, and they're putting them in the pipeline. And I'll kind of show you what that looks like here in a second. So you see Honeybook divides it up. This is their standard like pipeline, I guess, categories that they give you, and you can customize and add in your own. I'll show you what I do, but like immediately those contact forms go to this inquiry spot, and then oh, I've got 4 people who want to work with me. I need to go email with them back and forth. And here's an example of what a project looks like. So I really like Honeybook as well because you can communicate with people. You can email them directly through Honeybook. Sometimes that might go to spam. Maybe there's some client education there you can do. You can, of course, email them or contact them other ways, but I like that everything is just assigned. And you see here at the end, that's where this contact information goes. It sets up that person as a project, and then all of your future communications is with them. It's very, very helpful to have it all in one place. Here's an example. This is my real life Honeybook account. I'm kind of changing some, blocking out client information. But in addition to Honeybook standard categories, I've added in my own. It's really helpful for me, right? I do 2 prenatals with people as a doula. I can move that client to each of these categories when I've done my first prenatal, when I've done my second. I like to have an on call. I'm on call for this person. I put them in here. Then once they've had their baby, I put them in my scheduled postpartum visit. And these are like categories or sections of the pipeline I've added. You can just click that customize button right there. And then, of course, when they're completed, I move them to the completed when I'm completely done with the services. And definitely it's happened a couple times that people come on back and I get to pull it back to the, proposal sent and then move them through the pipeline again if they get pregnant again, which is fun. And again, we're kind of, I want to orient you big picture to everything Honeybook can do. And after this, we'll dive in and we'll just do it hands-on, what you guys want to see. Another question you can be asking yourself is, where are you involved, but you don't need to be? And this is kind of about automation. Something else you can think about as a doula is like, when can I really not answer my phone? If you are supporting someone at a birth, you can't answer your phone, right? If you are really connecting with a client postpartum, you can't answer your phone or you can't respond to a message. But Honeybook has so many ways to do that for you. And they have these tools called Smart Files, which I really love. I'll show you some of mine too at the end. These are options to present your whole proposal, all of your services. You can send them automatically. It's really beautiful and kind of amazing what Honeybook can do for you. Even if you don't have a website, you can make these very detailed, and you literally could just start a business just with Honeybook. Even if you don't have a website, social media, you could do everything, process payment, sign contracts, explain your services. You see here is an example from Honeybook of how beautifully you can customize their smart files. This is an example of a proposal. And like I said, we'll dig in. These are some of mine. I will dig into what they look like, and we'll even build one. If this is one of the things you guys want me to demo for you, we'll build one. I'll show you how you can do it in your own Honeybook account. Scheduling is another thing Honeybook can do for you. And I want to say I've been on record saying that I use Calendly. I still love Calendly. If you don't have something like a CRM, Honeybook, I think Calendly is a great option. But I kind of realized a couple, maybe sometime last year, why am I using Calendly? Honeybook does this for me. And one of the big problems I see a lot of doulas doing is when they're communicating with an inquiry or even with a paid client, there's lots of well, when are you free? When am I free? I can do Mondays. Oh, you're not free on Mondays. There's just a lot of wasted time in communication, when the best thing, the most professional thing, the thing you can do, again, to lead that client through the journey is just give them a link and say, here's when I'm free. Pick a time that works for you. I usually will add, if none of these work for you, then you can let me know. And we'll do that back and forth. People have weird work schedules or whatnot. But I have found if I always have some AM and PM time available, usually someone can make that. This is sort of a life scheduling hack, but you'll kind of see here my own, these are my own sessions I have. You could schedule with me. You'll see I'm only free on some of the days. That's because early on, I was definitely doing appointments with people whenever they wanted to. I was that doula who was let's talk back and forth, but really quickly I learned, you know what, it's much better they're hiring me as a service. It's much better if I lead that conversation and just show people when I'm free. Here's my time, you pick something that makes you instantly look like you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about, and you're making it easy for them to make one decision instead of, again, wasting time going back and forth when that could be time you're spending like getting to know them or digging into their birth plan or hearing how their baby's doing, something like that. So, and to protect my time and my schedule, there's only certain times I work and I can plug in Honeybook. I can plug those times in. You can repeat them every week. You can customize what days are blacked out. You can even sync Honeybook to an external calendar. So if I have a personal appointment or a blackout day on my calendar, it will not show that time. It's very, very, it's just smart. It's intuitive, smart, and it's a great way to protect your peace, but then also to show clients, hey, I've got this. You pick the time. Um, Automations are my favorite thing that Honeybook does, to be honest with you, because again, I'm all about finding ways to hack your way to kind of becoming a better doula. And for me, I was really getting lost and feeling like I had to respond to all the inquiries. You remember, maybe you're a new doula now, or you've been a new doula. When you get that email, like someone wants to book you, it's so exciting and you love responding to them. But I have found as I got busier, I just wasn't able to keep up and I wasn't always able to respond in time, especially if I was like at a 2-day birth or something. So Honeybook actually can automate that for you. This is an example of my initial inquiry. If you went to that contact form now, this is what you would get. This automation triggers when someone fills out the contact form, and so I could need to adjust it a little bit, based on what I'm doing at that time. But for now, because I'm not taking a lot of clients, I just change it to some language that says I'll be looking over your inquiry and respond soon. But they get a lookbook from me, they get something initial. In the past, when I was booking people and trying to fill out my calendar, it wasn't I'll be looking at a response soon. I had a link to book with me. Click here to book an interview. And then people would book it. That was awesome. That was a great feeling to not only see the inquiry come through, but then to see, oh, so and so booked an interview on your calendar. And again, anytime you send the contact form or you submit a contact form, Honeybook sends this back. I also automate my client process. So this is a real live project in my Honeybook. If you scroll down, there's a little gray column on the right hand side. If you scroll down to automations, you could click that button and it will give you the list of your own automations to choose. This is one I have, and I called it like Victoria's client workflow or something like that. And I have scheduled out through the whole lifetime of that client the emails that they need. So after they pay their deposit, it sends them my welcome email. It's like, here's the questionnaire. So happy you're my client. Here's, if you've been following me for a while, I send clients a workbook. I do send them a physical mail package a couple, days, weeks after they sign. But initially they get this automatic, like they'll get a digital copy. They get a questionnaire. They get, that welcome email from me and like next steps. Then I can choose 23 weeks before your due date. So if I want to do the first prenatal about 25 weeks, 2 weeks before that, it sends an email, schedule a prenatal. 16 weeks before their due date, another email, schedule that prenatal. 4 weeks before the due date, or Honeybook would be calling it a project date, I send a when to call your doula, hand out an email. Then 2 weeks before, it's that final invoice for, hey, you're 38 weeks, I'm on call for you, pay that final payment. And then this is kind of a one I love. 8 weeks after their due date, Honeybook then sends a request for a testimonial. And I love that because I don't have to think about it. It's not weird. I'm not at the postpartum visit focusing on them and then kind of being like, hey, do you want to leave testimonial? Sometimes clients ask, and I might say, sure, I'll go ahead and send that now. And don't worry, an email's going to be coming to you in a few weeks that will remind you. I just don't even have to think about it. Honeybook's sending all of this for me, and it's beautiful. And so then of course, like we're really talking about booking and making money for you and your business. Honeybook really does make it very effortless. Like I've showed you, that whole process from when they're interested in hiring you to actually hiring you can be automated. It's beautiful. They really make it very easy, and in my experience, it's well worth the investment that you're making. It's actually not a whole lot of money for all that you're getting and for the income that, for me, it's made it very easy to just automate the income that I'm bringing in. So this is their rates. Like the starter is $16 a month. You can see essentials is 32. And I do pay for the essentials because it allows me those automations. That's the one I'm on right now. If you have a really big team or an agency, maybe you want to go premium. So there's definitely an option for you. We're going to dig in just a second, but I want you to know if you're thinking about Honeybook at all, they give their educators like the best offer you can kind of possibly get. I'll give this link in the chat. You also can go to Honeybook and just use the code MOTHERWELL, and you will get 50% off a year. And I'll be honest with you, that's how I started using Honeybook. I got an offer back then. It was like $1 a month for 3 months. I got, from someone who was an educator. And that's how I started. If you go back, I went all the way back to 2020 when I first signed up. My first 3 payments were like $1 a month. Then it moved up to that next level. And it was just truly like, I love that they give people who are really excited about it the best deal. Jenna said that's an epic price for all these systems. Yeah, it really is. And I'll put that up again at the end. But for as little as like $16 a month, you can get all of this. We're going to dig in right now and I'll show you how it works. But I've loved it. And again, I think for me, the automations are really, that's why I pay that middle tier, is really what's made it worth it, because I definitely have more than one example I can think of where I was at a birth and I just hear my phone buzzing, when I step out or go to the bathroom and just see what it was. It's like, Honeybook, so-and-so inquired, so-and-so booked an appointment to interview you, or, so-and-so look at the proposal that you sent, like the interview I had the night before. And then like, cha-ching, it's kind of nice that their notification is like a little cash register. So I love hearing that sound too. Sometimes when I'm home, like, cha-ching, so-and-so paid your deposit. And it's like, this is amazing. So yeah, let me get some questions. You're welcome to put them in the chat. And I have Honeybook pulled up here. I want to show you guys whatever you want to see. So you're going to have to tell me. I have some ideas of what I'll show you, but for you to really get the most out of it, tell me what you want to see.
Are you wanting more? I don't blame you. This was a great call. We had such a good time, and the demo portion is so rich. So if you want to see that, just give me your email address below, the link in the description, and I will email you the full replay in your inbox. I can't wait to hear what you think.